Hello, everyone. Marie Gervais here. I wanted to talk to you today about building your credibility as a supervisor or a manager. And what's really interesting about credibility is it's a nice comparison with authority. Authority and credibility often get mixed up. People think that being authoritative and being credible are the same thing, but I think I should explain the difference. When you are building your authority, you do that through your own efforts. So you learn better presentation skills, you learn better questioning skills, you take courses, you improve things that you're doing, and you get more experience, more education, and you build yourself up. It's kind of like something that you put on yourself, like a hat. So your authority comes from the things that you have done, your own efforts. But your credibility doesn't come from there. Your credibility comes from what you do for other people over time. That's the main difference. So people love and trust you, and they're willing to work with you because of your credibility, not because of your authority. They may initially work with you because of your authority, but really it's the credibility that keeps them there. Now, when you first start out, you usually are pretty concerned about doing the job right, because especially if you haven't done anything that involves managing before, you're a little bit overwhelmed by the job. And so people then start to, act authoritative and think that that's what they should do. Or on the other side of the spectrum, they try to make everybody their friend and never make any authority decisions, which then also wrecks the team. So you need to have a combination of both. But what develops over time, if you build your team up, is your credibility. So you take your team and you introduce them to each other. You get to know who they are. You find out their talents. You use those talents. You put people in charge of things that they would be good at. And they start to see themselves as being valued and important. That's extremely necessary for building up your credibility. I'm going to share a slide right now, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. You can see that credibility is in the middle when you focus on building other people out. You figure out how to help them meet their needs and reach their goals. And you express gratitude to those people for helping each other and for what they're doing for the team. So you keep on building the team. And that allows them to see the contributions of other people. And when they do that, you yourself become more credible. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind. And I'm going to tell you a little bit story about that. Is when I first started out, my very first career, I was a teacher. And when I was teaching junior high, I thought I had to build up my credibility. And I thought I could do that by buying some noisy teacher shoes like this with some bling on them. And so I thought that would build up my authority and my credibility. As I began teaching, I realized that what I actually needed was, over time, to continue to consistently walk my talk. So I switched to soft shoes, which was a better idea because you don't want to make noise when you're coming into a junior high situation. I switched to soft shoes that I could walk my talk in better. And as I was in my 7-year term with that school, it was a tricky, difficult time. I had a student throw me against the wall. I had parents accuse me of things and come into my room with weapons on parent-teacher night. It was interesting, to say the least, and I really thought my students hated me until the very last week of the last year that I was there, when it was time for the awards ceremony, and I was called up to the podium to present an award. When I did that, the assembly of 600 junior high students erupted in thunderous applause and even gave me a standing ovation, and I was like dumbfounded. I thought, but they hate me. Who are they clapping for? I did not believe it was for me. Reflecting later on that situation, I realized it was because over time, me making them feel important and valuing who they were and helping them to do that for each other was what established my credibility. It was because I walked the talk instead of trying to impress people. And that's really the most important thing. Another thing that's important when you're thinking about establishing credibility is that once you have become a credible leader, you often get promoted. And the more power people have, the easier it is for them to fall into not paying attention to other people and what they say, and maybe being nasty in some way, shape, or form, even though they don't intend to be that way. And so the best way to guard against that is going to be taking the biggest risks and doing the hard thing yourself first. So an extreme example would be that your company is losing money. So if you're, say, the CEO, you offer, and not only offer, but you do take a salary cut first. I don't see too many companies doing that, but the credibility of those who do is huge, because what they do is they say, I'm willing to suffer. And at that point, and if they are negotiating salary cuts with other people, or they're negotiating other kinds of problems, the team understands that this is something that affects everyone because the CEO did the first difficult thing. I have a client, and they have those porta potties they put on construction sites. And when there's a new guy coming on a crew, the CEO of the company goes out and teaches them how to clean out the porta potties and shows them the procedure. And then says to them, if you aren't comfortable with this, it's okay, we'll assign it to someone else. How many people do you think say they're not comfortable with it? If the CEO can do it, you figure you can do it too. So that's what I mean by making your credibility has to continue at a higher level once you have more authority, not at a lower level. So you don't isolate yourself from the issues and problems. You actually have to face them at a much more difficult level. Then the last thing I'd like to talk to you about is about mistakes. So you're going to make some mistakes when you are in a position of authority, and when you're an employee, and in any situation, you're going to make mistakes because we're all human beings and none of us are perfect. And when you make that mistake, it's a good idea to just admit that you made that mistake and try to make amends. Be really honest about the fact that you're going to be making amends. Don't try and hide the mistake. Don't try and hide behind a mask and think that people can't see through it. If you hide behind it, it looks like this, right? It's you going, oh, you know what? You guys can't see my mask, right? Which isn't true. People can see that you're wearing a mask. And if you make a mistake, say, you know what? I believe this was a mistake. Let me rectify that. Your credibility goes through the roof. Your credibility doesn't go down, it goes up. And that's because you're willing to make a mistake and admit that you've made the mistake. And then you have to try to make amends. So you don't just say, okay, I messed up. You go, I messed up and I'm going to make amends. So I'm going to give you another example of a time when I really messed up and I offered to make amends, and there were two responses to that. I used to work for a not-for-profit. That was my second career before I became an entrepreneur. And when I worked for the not-for-profit, I went there one day to get some work done on a weekend. And I decided to wash the dishes because there was a big pile of them. So I thought, I'll just fill up the sink with water. I'll go do some work and come back afterwards and do the dishes after they've soaked for a bit. Bad idea, because I forgot the water was on. By the time I remembered it 2 hours later, there was a big flood. And all of the water had gone down into the business below, ruining their new photocopier and a couple of new computers that they just bought. So, well, I turned off the water, I cleaned up the mess, I called my boss immediately. I told my boss what an idiot I was and what a big mistake I made. And I said, you know what, if this takes me 3 years to pay it off, I'll pay it off. I am really sorry, and I'll do whatever it takes to make amends. So I didn't just say, oh yeah, sorry, my bad. I actually said, I'm going to make amends and I will pay it off. She said to me, listen, it's okay. Our insurance will cover it, but you have to be responsible and go and talk to that business. And here's a phone number. Call them, wait, meet, and explain what happened. I did. And the business, understandably, was furious. They raked me over the coals for about 15 minutes, made me feel like I was like lower than dirt. And of course, I deserved it, but I much preferred what my boss did. What my boss did was not causing me to lose face. I already felt really bad about it. I already told that business that what I would pay for whatever it was, and that, you know, if it had to be taken out of my salary for the next umpteen numbers of years, I would pay for it. I was really sorry for it. And I'd even taken a bank loan to pay for it. Like, I was really serious about it. And they said the same thing to me at the end. They said, you know what, our insurance will cover it. It's just inconvenient. But you know what? They could have not caused me to feel like such an idiot. And so that is something that really, if you want to keep credibility with your team, don't make them lose face. Do what my boss did, which was, she knew I felt bad, so she didn't make me feel worse. She just said, you know, we'll see what we can do. And she did give me something to do, which was to talk to the business and deal with that. So, and I didn't have to pay for it, but I felt really bad about it for a long, long time. And, you know, it really was a bad mistake. I totally messed up. But that's the last point that I wanted to make. When you make a mistake, admit it. And then if you are in charge of a team and other people make mistakes, they usually feel horrible about it. They're probably going to punish themselves much more than you ever would. So don't make them lose face. Don't make them look like idiots in front of the team. And they will respect you for it, and your credibility will go well. So, little recap. Credibility is not the same thing as authority. Authority is something that you build yourself and put on through your own efforts. Credibility is something that's built by walking the talk over time. And then if you're a new supervisor, the way to build credibility is to help other people meet their goals. Once you start to have more authority and you get promoted to other positions, the way to guard against losing your credibility is to do the hard thing, to admit when you make a mistake, and to not cause other people to lose face when they make mistakes. Your action item is to take one thing from the credibility list that I gave today and see how you can help somebody with their goals. So all of those things are about making a difficult decision, admitting a mistake, or helping somebody meet one of their goals. Take one of those things and see how you can apply that today. Happy practicing. This is me signing off, Marie Gervais with Shift Management, and have an awesome day.